So is it possible to do backpacking with sleep apnea? Absolutely. And this is the key. But I want to walk through this real quick and give you the overview. So I chose to buy this little mobile unit called the Z1. It is meant for running on car batteries at 12 volts. So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out the voltage and what everything is needed in terms to running that thing, and I've got everything laid out here so that we can take a look. So first let's get a little view. So you've got this little unit called the Z1, and just basically how this works, you're going to plug in this little adapter in the end into here, and this particular one, we recommend using this quiet tube which I bought online. And you can see I have a bunch of great black tape, duct tape on here because it broke as I was trying to pull the hose off of it. So I'm not sure I can recommend this tube, but it's the only thing on the market and it is serviceable. That's the reason it should come apart, but I pulled too hard and broke it. You shouldn't be able to break it so easily. But this part is really durable. I've been using this for a month in New Zealand, and you can see here that it is starting to crack and dry here, so I don't know how long this will last, but it's pretty good. Anyway, so this is going to assemble into here to your Z1, and then typically your Z1 is going to come with its own bag and power supply. Now this power supply, I looked on the back, it was a 2 amp output, and from a 2 amp output I knew that's what I needed for this, plus the 15 volt output. So I checked on here, this can handle 15 volt input, no problem. So this is a wall charger type, and I needed something mobile and more portable, so let's set that aside for the moment. I went out and found another unit that's a little bit lighter weight. It has an internal fan, and this is just an RC charger. It was made in China, nothing special, but it has an output of 15 volts, which is the same as the other one, but it's 7 amp. And that extra amperage gives me some extra juice to charge a battery when I need to. So this was the power supply I went with. And we're going to plug that in real quick. Let that get started. So then you'll need a hose. So for backpacking, I went out and bought a 3-foot hose. So it's quite a bit smaller than your typical 6-foot hose. This one also has a cover. I sewed a little cover together. I found these online. They're really better. So basic tube. The fleece on here is more comfortable. It's quieter. It helps insulate from sound, and it's just more comfortable when you're wrapping yourselves up, especially on a 3-foot hose. It's not a lot of length for you to get comfortable with, but it just goes on like a normal one would. And then also it's worth noting, I bought this HME. This is a humidity moisture exchanger. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, this little unit, they say is not serviceable, and they want you to throw these away and buy a pack of 30. I used it for a month, no problem. And how I did it was, after each use, I would put it under the faucet and rinse with water. And then I just took a little bit of regular isopropyl rubbing alcohol, and I would spray that in, 2 here, 2 or 3 here, and then take a tiny bit of water, pour it in, and just kind of slosh it around so the alcohol would mix inside. It killed everything. And then before you use it, just rinse it again with water, and I blow through one end all the water out, and it just shoots all the water straight out. So I could just keep using this over and over, and it's a good little device. It helps keeps moisture in the tube. So you'd want to hook that in, and then whatever mask system you have, that'll just hook on there as well, and then so you have your setup. So here's your complete setup. The only thing remaining here is the power to this device. Now from a wall, you can just simply plug in your device and it'll power right up. It always takes a second to get the juice flowing. It must have some internal protection circuitry, which is great. So once that thing turns on, it's ready to go. Now, that's if you're at a wall. right? And that's fantastic. So say you're at a hostel or a hotel and you need to recharge your battery. Well, you also need to sleep. And so if you have limited time, I wanted to be able to use my CPAP machine while I'm sleeping as well as charge my battery. So I'm going to pull this out for a minute. And what I did is I created this little splitter, this one here. So I had to figure out the barrel size of this barrel, and this barrel, according to my paperwork, has a 5.5 millimeter barrel, and this one had a 5.2. So I did a 5.2 female and spliced on 2 different units. So this one is my 5.5, and this one is my 5.2, which goes to my charger. So it turns out I had to figure out how many amps I needed to go. I wanted to do 4 days out in the camping off the grid. So I got a 10 amp battery. This was kind of a trial and error, and this turns out to be 4 or 5 days depending on your the inches of water, or excuse me, centimeters of water that you need to run your device. So I've got mine set at 9 right now, and you might need more. I'm just a very light CPAP or sleep apnea, and so you might need more pressure than that. But at 9, I can get at least 4 days out of this and charging my iPhone. It's quite heavy. We'll weigh this whole system when we get done. But so this battery I found on Hobby King for $88, and it's a 10 amp hour, and that is amazing because if you go to buy the medical device battery for this unit, it's like $500 for half of the power. So you'd be $1,000 to this kind of wattage. It was just insane because it's a medical device, and I don't know. It's very, very frustrating that that's the medical industry we live in. Anyway, so this battery is quite cool because it comes with the main power supply, right? That you're going to get this XT90 connector on this particular battery, but you can get adapters and stuff that you need, and little plug covers, which I also bought just to let you know when it's charged or not. But basically to keep water out in case you're backpacking and it slips into a stream or something like that. So this battery also, I bought a couple really cool devices. One of the devices, also on Hobby King, was a voltage checker. So you take your battery, you have the red wire and the black wire for negative, positive. I've marked these negative and positive, and you just put that on there, and it'll say there's 4 cells. All of them are 15.1 volts. And then number 1, 2, 3, and 4, it'll go through each cell inside this pack and tell you what the voltage is. So right now I'm running about a 3.8 for each of the batteries. And the beauty of this is it also has a USB port here. So when I'm backpacking out in the backcountry, I can be charging my iPhone while hiking out in the woods. So that USB port, although it's only a 1 amp or 1.1 amp output, it's still a way to charge your battery. Fantastic. So I tape that right to the side of this battery. I check it when I need to, and I use that USB port. Now, something about these batteries, since they're lithium polymer batteries, they do die. So if that cell goes below a certain voltage, say it's around 3.0 or 2.9 or something, it can fry. It turns into a brick. So you don't want to do that. So the other thing I did was I added another device here. So when I know I'm actually getting low, I will use this device. So what this does, it also does the same readout, tells me the voltage and everything, but it has 2 little horns here. You can see that I've actually filled those with a little bit of hot glue because they were so loud that the intention here is this is a device that will alarm when the voltage goes too low. So if your battery pack goes below 3.3, for example, it can be set. You can set it to whatever voltage you want to. There's a little button right there in the middle there. You can set that button, and it'll you can set it 3.3, 3.2, 3.1, whatever. I've got it set to 3.3 just to be safe. So if it hits 3.3, that thing will start beeping an alarm. The original intent of this device was on airplanes who were remote control airplanes, and when they were flying them in the sky, they needed to be able to hear when the battery was about to die so they didn't fry their battery. So these horns, dual horns would go off so that the pilot could bring it back before they fry a battery. But I found that if I put that beeper, those little bit of hot glue in there, it's just quiet enough and loud enough to wake me up while I'm sleeping. So, and I would only use this when I knew I was getting close to 3.3. And I had done several tests to see how the battery drains. This isn't gonna light up, is it? Here. So the battery, as it starts to drain down, you can see my little bar graph here. So each night I would map it just to test it and see, and it would go 15.9, 15.3, 14.8, 14.4, and then 13.4, and it would start by night 5. And the drain would it would drain pretty quickly and then slow down and then speed up at the end for some reason. Didn't quite understand that, but that's with the Z1 CPAP machine, and that's what I got using when it was set at 9 centimeters of water. So that's another device I taped onto here and had both of these on here. So these little wires are fantastic because not only does it give you feedback of the battery health, but you can use it to charge and to let you know when things are running low. And of course, they say when you charge these, you always want to put them in a fire bag. So I constantly had this thing in a fire bag, and then I would put that inside of a Ziploc baggie to keep it dry in case I got dunked in the water or something. So just trying really hard to keep the water off of this when you're backpacking. And I would use a strap, and I would wrap it tight over the top of that just to keep everything tight. I used 3 straps that were all the same length for various purposes. So that's the battery. Now if you want to charge that battery, you need a Lipo Charger. I just happen to have this AccuCell 6 from some old RC stuff as well. It's pretty lightweight for as powerful as this little sucker is, and it allowed me to charge it. So I can plug this in, and then with my battery I can, so I have a couple of these chargers. So these came with the charger, I think, and then I had to buy the XT90 connector that fits the battery. So we plug those in, we plug the battery in, and then we take this, the extra battery wires, and we plug those into the charger as well. And then I've got it all set up already. You'd have to do your own setup, but it checks the battery, you hit start, and then it starts charging. And it can tell you the voltage of each of the cells, and then it does more. So we're not going to charge, but let's just assume, so when I'm at a hostel, at a hotel, I can run my CPAP machine, my mobile machine, and I can be charging at the same time. In fact, I'll just show you. I mean, you obviously know this will work, but you hit start, it's charging, you can hit start here, and you could be at the same time have a USB onto your phone. I don't think I need to do that to show you, but I would constantly charge my phone at the same time. Okay, so we'll turn that off, turn that off. Okay, so that's when you're in a hostel or in a hotel. So you have wall outlet and you can charge everything, right? Now let's say you've gone into the bush and you're ready to just use the battery. So we'll disconnect this, and this. So all of this gets disconnected. And even this wall one. Push that aside for the moment. Now you have another device. I bought a female of the XT90, and then you can see my fancy job here. I made it really stout because I just couldn't afford to have anything break while you're out there. I used that same barrel plug I figured out before, which I think was the 5.5, and that plugs into there. And interestingly enough, the end of this hose kind of presses against the end of this plug, conveniently. And this set of wires I bought on Amazon. And then of course you can see it lights up, and you can start it, and it does the same thing. And away it goes. So now it's running on battery only. And again, you still have access to this USB charger. So if you wanted to charge your phone, you plug that in there, and now you're charging your phone as well. Okay? So that's mobile out in the woods. The other thing I did do is since I went to New Zealand, I bought this plug on Amazon as well. So for the USA, that's your plug type. For New Zealand, that's your plug type. This is also a 220 to 110 converter, and it has 2 USB ports on top, which is fantastic for charging my phone and other things like your GPS communicator that you need to charge as well. So that would go in the wall, and then your lightweight 7-amp charger would go into there. Then you could charge your phone straight off of here, and you wouldn't need to be charging off of the battery while you're charging it as well. Okay, so that, and I don't know what country you're going to, but if you could find something like that, that would be great. And then my other recommendation is I always use earplugs because this whole device is loud, and I would use eye mask because it was light and weirdest times. So I also would recommend that you talk to your flatmates or your roommates or whatever and say, hey, I use a CPAP machine. You're going to hear this slight little engine hum. And nobody gave me any crap for the month that I was out. It is a little bit annoying to some people, but most people were like, oh yeah, it was just like air conditioner, just noise in the background. Okay, so now let's pack all this stuff up, and I'll show you how nice and neatly it will pack up, undoing everything here. So I had a little system, and so the hose would pack up. So I grabbed this Columbia, this little, I think it's a 10 or 5 liter or something, but it's quite small. And so first we'll put our, actually, you know what I'm going to do first? I'm going to show you what I would do to protect my charger. So this charger had buttons and things, so I thought maybe I would protect those. So I fold this over, and I use one of these strips, like so. So I put that down in there, and then I put this one right on top. Then I put the hoses in next to that, right at the end. And then this guy would fold up. And then I have 2 little strips here. One for this one. And then I would use another long one. These were all the long ones are the same length, and the short ones are the same length. And this here, like so. And then that one would go on top of the hose. And then this one, I would put the small end in first. It would go there. And then I would just take this and fold it sideways. Put your cables in there. And then for your wires, you take these wires and fold them up. And then these ones, because you need all of these. And then this one as well. All of them bundle up nice and tight here. And those wires go on top. And your device here, all this stuff could just stuff right in the end. You have your earplugs, your mask, and I would leave the connector out with my USB to charge my phone at various places along the way, and the alcohol I use for other things as well, so I left that in my toiletries kit. But that's everything for this kit. And I just fold it up, press it down, and then voila. I did spring a hole in there, so I had to, a couple times, so I had to tape that up. But anyway, everything's in there. And then doing the same thing for your battery. And you do have to be careful with these prongs sticking out. You don't want to damage them, so I would, and then I would leave these out so that I had access to them. I didn't always have to undo everything. And so that's pretty tight. And then that's done. So there's your whole kit. Actually quite small, packs up really nice. And let's see how much this thing weighs. So that kit is 3 pounds 1 ounce. And if we get that battery on there, it's 5 pounds 5 ounces, which is 5.3 pounds. Or if you're into kilograms, 2.4. So it's like 5 1/4 pounds or 2.4 kilograms. And that is it. So hopefully you enjoyed this demonstration, and you too can be confident that you can backpack with sleep apnea. Rock on sleep apnea. Thank you for watching. Bye.